Michigan recruiting is starting to heat up this spring, but I see one glaring hole on the commit list right now. There are no offensive linemen committed just yet. I got Zach Libby on to talk offensive line targets in this video. But first, Wolverine fans, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. All right, let's bring on Zach Libby from the Wolverine. And here we're looking at some of these offensive line targets. Andrew Babaloa, Douglas Utu, Jack Lang, Michael Carroll, Avery Gotch. These are some of the main targets. I want to break this up. We'll talk offensive tackles first. So we're looking at Babaloa, Utu, and Lang. Where does Michigan stand with this trio, and who do you think right now stands out the most?
Yeah, we got to start with Babaloa, right? The number 3 overall offensive tackle of the country. He's a kid, from suburban Kansas City, but he was actually born 45 minutes away from Ann Arbor. He has a lot of state ties with Sharon Moore, the head coach, considering that they're both Kansas natives. He has a close friendship with 2024 offensive line signee Andrew Sprague because they're both out of Metro Kansas City. But yeah, that multi-day visit was huge. I mean, the offer came over the fall. There was rumblings that he could have visited for the Ohio State game or possibly in January, but getting him for more than one day was big. The message that Babaloa left home with, that he is indeed a priority. And I think the on and off the field resources that Michigan provides, offensive linemen in particular, is certainly standing out. When you look at his On3 recruiting prediction machine, there isn't one school that's really has control or is really in the lead. It kind of makes you feel like there's still kind of an openness with his recruitment. And that's obviously good for Michigan in terms of getting him back for a June official visit and then ultimately remaining in the race. But that multi-visit really solidified not only his relationships with the coaching staff, but really got a taste of what to expect should he sign. But, when you talk about the others like Douglas Utu, out of Bishop Gorman, he was the one out of the 3 offensive line targets who had yet to visit before this weekend. Right. They had a relationship with each other, Moore and Utu, going back to the early part of his high school career. But, getting them together to sit down for for meetings, sorry. And just explaining, getting the real inside look, because he's always seen what offensive line development in Michigan is like, but to see it in person made the difference. Offensive line coach Grant Newsom is also heavily involved. Both Moore and Newsom visited Utu and his fellow offered Bishop Gorman offensive line teammates during the January contact period. And I mean, to potentially play for a team who won 2 Joe Moore awards in 3 seasons, I mean, you want to play for the best. So that really, I guess, piqued his interest. And, also Michigan has a connection with Micah Kapana, the 2024 running back signing, who was a former teammate of Utu. Yeah. So if you're able to bring him back for an official visit to really see where Michigan – that way you can see where Michigan really stands. And the same goes for his teammates and S.J. Alo-Fatuli and Alai Kalanivalu.
It's turning time, and I don't want you to miss any of the action for March Madness, so here's what we're going to do to watch all the games. Prime Video is streaming every tournament game live with a subscription to either Paramount or Max, and, lots of these games are on while we're at work. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to log on, sneak in these games while you're on the clock, and Prime Video has you covered. Watch every game live on your phone, on your laptop, or relax and watch it at home on Prime Video with a subscription. It's March. It's madness, and you can stream it all on Prime Video.
And then the final one, Jack Lang, this is a kid who returned last weekend, visited for the Ohio State game, ended up including Michigan in his top 6. There's obviously competition in terms of Wisconsin, Nebraska, Missouri. Notre Dame is currently the RPM leader, but, they do have 3 projected offensive tackles committed. The Fighting Irish do. So comparatively for Michigan, when you look at their situation, the number of projected tackles on the board is not really comparatively to projected interior types. It's smaller numbers. So similar to like Utu and Babaloa with Lange, you kind of have an opportunity to sell these guys to be the face of the line at the anchor spot, which resulted in sending 6 offensive linemen to the NFL Combine earlier this year.
All right. Now, we looking at these interior offensive linemen, Michael Carroll and Avery Gatch. Now, Michigan is the RPM leader for each of these guys. One, do they have room for both, or is one prioritized over the other?
I would say both of them are at the top of the board when it comes to interior types. When you look at Carroll, he has a legacy at two of Michigan's rivals. His dad played football at Penn State. His mom played basketball at Michigan State. But, Michigan was the final school to get him on a visit after a busy travel schedule that he had recently. Like, he went to Clemson, Alabama, and Georgia, but Michigan was the final school to host him. One of the reasons why I think Michigan is such a slight favorite heading into his Juno V on the RPM is what specifically Grant Newsome has done in this recruitment. I mean, keep in mind, before he got the promotion as offensive line coach, there was a very close relationship still between Carroll and Newsome, because Newsome is the area recruiter for the eastern part of Pennsylvania. So that promotion only ascended their communication. But, following the visit, Carroll spoke a lot about Newsome. I guess the way they described the meetings, he described the meetings very detailedly with the latter. It kind of mirrored in a way how the tight ends, when Newsome was Michigan's tight end coach, kind of spoke about him. Newsome is 27 years old, very intelligent, a humble and caring individual. He can dissect the game to a T. He played at Michigan, and not only that, his entire coaching career is spent at Michigan. Yeah. So smart move on giving Newsome this role, because it's only resulted in guys like Carroll showing even more interest in doing them, not to mention having Moore, who is actively involved in Carroll's recruitment as an offensive line coach, be the head coach.
All right.
And then
coming off of this national championship, though, Michigan fans are kind of wondering, and it's way too early to panic, right? It's way too early for that. But when's Michigan offensive line recruiting going to get cranked up? When are we going to start to see some of these guys commit? And also, how many do you think they ultimately need in this class?
I would say they signed 4. I think the goal is to sign 2 tackles, 2 interior type. You've seen Michigan kind of have a spot open for the center, including last year where they had Jake Guanera in the fray. I could see a situation where they sign a true center along with 2 guards and 2 tackles. This is kind of a good situation for Michigan in a way, because you have so many guys interested in Michigan that you're going to end up kind of figuring out who is actually, committable, who isn't. There's also questions that might need to be tackled, like what if guys on the lower on the board decide to end up wanting to commit earlier than other guys. But there's a good number of guys who Michigan's either the favorite for or in contention based on RPM, and it's very true. Again, Joe Moore awards in 3 seasons. What you've seen in terms of developing NFL-ready guys, the camaraderie of that offensive line, the national championship, the celebration of a unit that sometimes gets overlooked at other schools,
right.
But at Michigan, they champion a solid group of 5. And that's not to mention, the early enrollees who are there on the offensive line playing a big part, the veterans, making sure that the recruits feel like at home. And again, I think it's just, if you want to be an offensive lineman, if you're an offensive lineman and you want to find what that you got to check off the boxes, Michigan, has everything available to you. So again, while there's no offensive line commits right now, I don't see any worrisome. I don't see any nervousness in terms of whether or not they get these guys. It's just a matter of timing, because most of them still have official visits left to take. So maybe in the summer, maybe later this spring, we'll get a better picture of who actually ends up in the group.
Yeah, it feels like with all these recent visits, it feels like Michigan's about to get hot on the recruiting trail. So Michigan fans, talk to me, comment section below. Who's your top target on offensive line? And Zach says they're going to sign 4. Who are your 4? If you could fit 4 in this class, who do you want? Let me know, comment section below. Thank you for watching this video. And if you enjoyed that, go check out the hundreds of videos that we have on this channel. And also do me a favor, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel.